Number 4 on my fantasy playlist, November 29th, 1986, Peter Cetera and Amy Grant, The Next Time I Fall. Never was too crazy about this record, although I do appreciate it a lot more now than I did back then. The thing about it is, on these fantasy playlists, a lot of people think, man, on your fantasy playlist, I bet you put all your favorite songs on there, don't you? Well, that's true to some extent. There are some songs on my fantasy playlist that I thought should have been much bigger hits. I put them high on my fantasy playlist. If usually if they were hit sounding records and deserve to be doing much better than going up to just 38 or 39 or even number 88 on Billboard's Hot 100. But I also followed, particularly back in the 80s, toe to toe with Billboard's Hot 100. Followed it real closely, just parallel with Billboard. Peter Cetera and Amy Grant, number 1 on Billboard's Hot 100, and riding high on this song, Peter Cetera of Chicago. This guy's got to be multi-millionaire. He's probably got about 5 mansions, an elevator and a jacuzzi, maybe an escalator and all the mansions. I mean, you got to understand, Peter Cetera, he sang lead on 25 to 6 to 4 by Chicago, and he didn't sing lead on some of the early singles, but by about 1973 on, he sang on just about lead on all their big hit singles. Chicago, Peter Cetera did, and he got off on this solo career that did Glory of Love. Was that one that he did? I believe that was one that he did back in the 80s. The song was written by Bobby Caldwell. The Next Time I Fall was written by Bobby Caldwell. I'll talk about him in a minute. And Paul Gordon. Paul Gordon, he wrote a ballad, co-wrote a ballad that was big in the summer of 86. Friends and Lovers, remember that? By Gloria Loring and Carl Anderson. And Bobby Caldwell, the other guy who wrote this record, Bobby Caldwell, he had that huge hit in 1979, What You Won't Do for Love. Yeah, What You Won't Do for Love. If you drove, this was back in 1979, and the winter and spring of 1979, if you were just cruising around or just hanging out somewhere listening to a top 40 radio station on the AM and the growing number of radio stations on the FM band, you've heard this song over and over again. This is one of the most overplayed records I've ever heard. What You Won't Do for Love by Bobby Caldwell. It's sort of a slow, mid-tempo, bluesy type record. It just caught on big time. And the interesting thing about that particular record was Bobby Caldwell didn't think it was going to be a hit. He picked another song off the album that he thought was going to be the standout record. The song was hastily written. The thing about Bobby Caldwell, too, Bobby Caldwell, he was on the TK record label back in the 70s. This was this record label, they were red hot back in the 70s. KC and the Sunshine Band was on this label. So was George and Gwen McRae and Foxy. Remember Foxy, Get Off? And back in 1978, there was Hot Number 79. They were on this record label along with Peter Brown. Do You Want to Get Funky with Me? Back in 1977, Peter Brown was on that label, too. Bobby Caldwell on the TK record label. I didn't know he was on that. Just remember, TK record label, one of the biggest, they were based in Miami. Founded by Henry Stone, I believe, back in the 60s. He was a record distributor. And, the record, TK Records, it was it. Among the big labels back in the 70s. But Bobby Caldwell, he was on that label. And he also, I just found this out, I forgot about a song called Janet by the Commodores. Commodores came out with a lovely record called Janet back in 1985, I think. This was post Lionel Richie. And he also wrote, Bobby Caldwell also co-wrote a song that Chicago did, What Kind of Man Would I Be, which was off the Chicago 19. The single was released in 1989, late 1989 for Chicago. Bobby Caldwell wrote that. I didn't know he did all that. I just thought he just had that one hit, What You Won't Do for Love. I'm still hearing that dang song in my head playing right now. Again, this song was so overplayed along with the Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits back in early 1979. But it's a classic, what can I say? And so is this song right here, song that Bobby Caldwell co-wrote, Next Time I Fall, at number 4 by Peter Cetera and Amy Grant. My fantasy playlist, November 29th, 1986.